It used to be that a high school degree was the mandatory minimum for entering the job market. The baby boom generation changed all of that. More and more people had to get a college degree. Now they say you have to graduate from a 4-year college in order to be competitive. It used to be that when you graduated from college, the most important piece of paper you could hold was your diploma, your ticket to ride. Not now. Now it's your student debt. College is incredibly expensive, $20, $30, $50,000 a year or more. You could conceivably rack up $250,000 in debt by attending college, and there you would be, proud owner of a diploma, looking for a job, trying to find a way to make the payments on your debt. I think college is one of the major rip-offs in our farcical society. A few years ago, the president of a big university gave a moving speech about the greatness of his institution and the value of a higher education. The speech was widely circulated and praised. Not long after that, a graduate of his illustrious institution appeared in a courtroom in my city. He was a former pro football player, and he was in arrears, allegedly, with his child support payments. His lawyer said it was true that he did owe back payments, but he was not to blame for this. He had failed to pay, his lawyer said, because when he got the statements in the mail requesting the money, he couldn't read them. This product of higher education from that great institution was an illiterate. He had a diploma, but he couldn't read it. Remember the guy who wrote a book about everything I needed to know I learned in kindergarten? I think people should have taken that to heart. Yesterday, a work crew was putting in a new driveway down the street. A young fellow I was with noticed all the activity, and he asked if we could walk over and take a closer look. When we got to the site, the cement truck had just finished filling the driveway, and 3 workers were smoothing out the wet cement. One of them was using a huge paddle, a foot across and about 12 feet wide, and on the end of a pipe handle, 4 sections of pipe, each about 5 feet long. So this was a very big piece of equipment. The man using it handled it lightly, floating it on top of the cement. The other 2 men had much smaller trowels, and they were putting the finishing touches to the sides of the driveway. It was clear that they had done this many times. They worked together beautifully and without exchanging a word. My young friend and I watched them in admiration as they turned the chunky wet cement into one gleaming surface. A friend of mine is about to have a hip replacement. Her surgeon performs over 900 operations a year. You do something long enough, you begin to get the hang of it. The head of the crew, the one working the big smoothing tool, was in his mid-30s with a dark trimmed beard. He saw my young friend and he smiled and he said, "You go to school?" "I do," the boy replied. He's in his first year of school, lower education, I guess you'd say. The curriculum involves nap and snacks, along with the ABCs. "You stay in school and go to college," the workman said, "so you won't grow up doing this." Later, one of the other men came up to the boy and said, "You want to grow up to spread cement?" When the boy had no reply, the workman laughed and said, "Stay in school, little man. You don't want to do this." Eventually, the 3rd man came by and delivered the same message, "Stay in school so you won't end up like me." We went back up the street, and I brooded about that. I don't like to brood, but I do like the word brood, because brooding about something is rather like a hen sitting on her egg. After a while, I went back to where the workmen still were. They were cleaning up at the end of their day. I went over to the crew leader and I said, "You know what you said about going to college?" He nodded. I said, "A lot of what goes on in college is fluff. A lot of people come out of college with fluff in their heads. You people here are hard workers and very skillful. I value that." "I do too," he said. "Good," I said. "A lot of the college stuff is for show and the dough. There are many ways to acquire an education, and a higher education at that. I always pin my hopes on the student, not the institution. Too often college is more about social stratification than it is about learning."